All right, looks like I'm live. Hi, folks. My name's Jenny. I also go by New Uke, New York on some parts of social media, and I create ukulele content, covers, original songs, arrangements. I share PDFs and songbooks, and I lead 4 free play-along jams online every month. 2 on YouTube, 2 on Zoom, and my patrons can join me on Zoom for all of them. I also lead some free ukulele jams in New York City where I live. And this video today is part of my free public tutorial series. The One Take Tutorials is a series where I sit down and live stream like I'm doing right now. Usually no one's watching, and that's okay. Usually people watch later, but I live stream a workshop on a song that I've arranged, a technique, something having to do with ukulele, and I usually share a PDF to go along with it if appropriate. And I just have been making these, trying to make one a month for quite a while now, several years, and I've amassed a sort of playlist of them that you can check out if you're interested. There's no hidden charge. But I will give a shout out to my Patreon patrons because Patreon support does help me make these. So if you're ever interested in supporting what I do or even getting more perks and bonuses and some exclusive Patreon content, come on over to Patreon and check it out. But it's fine if you never do. I'm happy to make these for public consumption. And I really enjoy making these videos. They're kind of long form chatty tutorials as opposed to some of the great ones out there by people who are like making speedy 5-minute tutorials on lots of different songs. I enjoy those a lot as a player, but it is not my skill to make, and I'm not a video editor. So I make these one-take tutorials and live stream them, and I hope that you will find them helpful and useful to you. Today's tutorial is a song tutorial, and it is by special request. I will admit it is early November. Many people are going to be annoyed by the idea of playing Christmas music in early November, but not everyone, and some of us are working on holiday songs, whether it's Christmas or Hanukkah or New Year's, Boxing Day related songs for next month, December. And I appreciate the people who plan ahead. And one of my patrons reached out to me, hi to John, if you watch, which I think you will, and asked if I would teach this song before December. That is a song that John is working on, and I bet some other people would enjoy playing too, so I thought, why not make it my public one-take tutorial. And it is the Christmas song. This is written by Robert Wells and Mel Tormé in the 1940s, famously first recorded and maybe definitively recorded by Nat King Cole and the Nat King Cole Trio in I think 1946, and just a classic that everyone who has recorded a Christmas album just about has recorded. So the Christmas song is the song you may also know as Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire. Lovely Christmas classic, can be fun even for folks who don't celebrate Christmas because it's got a great jazzy arrangement and melody. So I thought, yeah, why not? Let's talk about it in November so that folks who want to be able to play it in December can start working on it now. This song does have some tricky chords in it, so this is not a basic level beginner one song necessarily, but I will tell you something. I shared in the description box of this YouTube video my 2 covers of this song. It's been a number of years since I covered it. And in fact, when I looked up the links for these 2 covers, I covered this song when I had been playing for about 6 months, and then I covered it again about a year later. So I had about 1.5 years of playing ukulele. As part of my ukulele advent calendar project, in which I post a song a day for December through January holiday season, arranging all kinds of different songs, not just Christmas songs, but I was doing that even when I was first starting to play, and I wanted to play songs like this. I wanted to learn those jazzy chords. I wanted to sing along with these songs. So I challenged myself, and I kind of just did it imperfectly. Those 2 covers that I linked to are nowhere near perfect. You can hear, though, a huge difference between 6 months and 1.5 years of playing, which is kind of cool and maybe encouraging to those of you who have not been playing very long. So we're going to talk about in this lesson today for the Christmas song, we're going to talk about how to simplify songs, which I have done lessons on this before, and I think I even have a Patreon lesson on simplifying a jazz song, but there are various tricks and tips that you can use, and I'll go over a lot of them in this video today, and I encourage you to share your own in the comments as well. So this is not a beginner song, but I absolutely would still encourage beginners to give it a whirl, and even if it meant you left out every other chord, and we'll talk about that as we go along, it still might be fun for you if you love this song. So, though it is November, the Christmas song, I'm not dressed thematically today, I just happen to be wearing green, and we're going to go through how I like to play this, and then you are going to be able to take all the skills, all the chords, and shift and change it so that it works for you. These are never supposed to be tutorials about how you should play a song, and in fact, you don't even have to use them on this song in particular. You could take what we're going to talk about in terms of strumming and playing and move it to another song that you want to play more. But we will go over a lot of different things today. For those of you who are more advanced players and don't need some of the more basic stuff, and for those of you who just like to skip around or see specific things, there will be, after I post this, I will go in and put in timestamps so that you can jump around and look at different sections of the video. If you're watching this really early or live, there are no timestamps yet, but there will be soon. And also, if you're watching this really early, I do have a jam today. It is in just over an hour, so we'll see how long this takes me to record. I have a jam today at 6 p.m. London, or 5:30 p.m. London time, which is 12:30 my time, Eastern time. If you've never joined me for one of my public play-alongs, please join me for one of them soon. And let's get right into this song. So I will sometimes have the chords up on the screen, and there is a PDF you can grab either from the chat if you come across this live, or from the Patreon post that I will link to in the description box if you come across this later. It's not live yet until I finish recording this. So you can get those chords there for free on a PDF, and I will also most of the time have it up on the screen, but there will be times when I will take it off the screen so you can see my hands a little bigger. So please get that on your end so that you can look at it when I don't have it on the screen. And also, I just wanted to note I'm playing a high G tuned ukulele today, but this song works really nicely on low G as well. So I have the re-entrant tuning, a high G C E A, but you could absolutely play this on a low G tuned uk, and that would still work, everything including the chord melody riff at the end. So here's the thing about this song. I mentioned it's a little tricky. There are some chord shapes in here that are easy beginner chords. There's some beginner 2 chords. There are more intermediate chords. This song has patterns in it that are great for learning newer chord shapes. So if some of these chord shapes are brand new to you, the way they work in this song in this key, the key of A, I really like because it kind of helps us learn some of these chords. But we can also simplify it. I've got some notes for simplification up here in the text box at the top of this document, but also we're going to talk about it as we go through various ways to simplify. So even if you are a beginner and have only been playing 6 months, like I was when I first played it, there's still ways to strategize around this. So don't get too scared. If you love this song, it's worth looking at least for a few minutes. The way the song structure works is that we have and just a short intro, which is the same as the chords for the first line of the song, minus that E7, which is more of a transitional chord. But we open with a simple intro, then we have basically a verse, another verse with a little bit of slightly different chords, especially at the end there as we transition into a bridge. This middle stanza is a bridge. And then we go back to a verse again. Again, slightly different chords. This song has some little modulations and things that it does. So the 3 verses are not exactly the same, but they're very similar, have lots of patterns the same. And then there's an outro. It's basically the last line of the song or the last line of the verse extended and repeated a few times with slight variations. And then, of course, I have an optional chord melody sound that you can do at the end. There's several holiday songs that have I'm thinking of River by Joni Mitchell. One version of that also has like a little jingle bells at the beginning or the end of it. And this is one of those songs where you can do a little outro using jingle bells, which is fun because you're playing one Christmas song off another Christmas song. So that I've written out here in a beginner way too. You could actually do this chord melody in a different way, and we'll talk about that later, but I've written out a sort of basic version of it. So we really need to learn mostly one verse, one bridge, and then some variations for the verses and the outro. And the nice thing is, as we do walk through this, you are going to see patterns for how you're fingering these chords on your fretboard. If you're a more advanced player and you can just play all these chords already, or they don't phase you, you may not need what we're going to do next. But I just want to quickly walk through what the chords are in the song and some of the family groupings that I've tried to point out on this sheet. And then we're going to start to go through how we actually move from chord to chord. And that'll be some strategizing that I'll do with the chords off the screen so you can see my hands bigger. And we'll talk about that. Again, you can skip both those sections if you don't need them. Or you can skip anything. So we're going to start out at the very top here. I tried not to scare you off. I gave you, there's an A, an A7, an E minor 7. Those chords are beginner chords that are great for beginners to know, and they're 1 and 2 finger chords. So it's nice that there's a fair amount of those in this song. Then we sort of have a family of bar chords that you can see there's several bar chords on this page with the line across a whole fret and sometimes another finger added and sometimes not. So we can just look at this real quick. The C sharp 7 may not be a chord you've played before, or it may, but it is the same shape as the barred D7, which is not in this song, but here we're playing that same shape on the 1st and 2nd fret instead of the 2nd and 3rd. So D7, a lot more people know. C sharp 7 just moves that shape back up towards your headstock, 1 fret for, you know, the bar and 1 fret for that additional finger. So that's played 2 2 2. Sorry, 1 1 1 1 2 if you're talking about the numerical notation. Then we have some bars that are just straight across the fretboard. You could stack your fingers if you prefer, but we've got 2nd fret, that's B minor 7, and it's also on the next line down D6. It can work as both in this song. You've got all the way up here on the 4th fret, a C sharp minor 7. Again, just stacked or barred right across the 4th fret. Every string 4 4 4 4. That is a C sharp minor 7. If you look just below that chord, you see D major 7. If you back your bar up to the 2nd fret, which is what that little 2 means next to that chord chart, and you do 2 2 2 4. That's a D major 7. Now look just below that and you see C sharp major 7. Walk that whole shape back to the 1st and 3rd fret and you've got your C sharp major 7. I put some other C and D chords next to those bars so you can see those too. But before we go to those, I want to talk about the last bar chord on the page, which is at the bottom of the page, the B7. 2 3 2 2. And there's an alternate shape there for you. So if you'd rather play the B7 as it is next to it, that's also a B7. 4 3 2 0. That is also a B7. So whichever one of those is more comfortable for you, you can choose. Now, some other things you might want to notice in this song is that your D6, which is the same shape as the B minor 7, is your D chord with 1 finger added. It's you add the 4th fret, the 4th finger or pinky finger on the 2nd fret of your A string. So D and D6 very easily seem to be related. And then if you take that D6 shape and add that 4th fret pinky, you've got your D major 7. So those are all related. We've also down here got a C6, which you might know is an A minor 7 shape, all open strings. If you add 1 finger to the 2nd fret of your A string, you're playing a C major 7. And then you see the C sharp major 7 that we already played there with it. A couple of hanging out beginner 2 / early intermediate chords are the F sharp 7 and the E7. E7 people often learn as one of their first 3 finger chords, very versatile chord. And the F sharp 7, you may have learned an F7 before you ever do F sharp 7. The good news is if you can play the 4-finger F7 on 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fret, you just move that forward and you've got an F sharp 7. So any chord that covers all 4 strings is a movable chord shape. We don't need to get into the musical theory of that, but it does mean that you can see that other places on the fretboard and it can become other chords in the same shape. There is also a D minor family down here that you may want to look at. And actually, I might add just the D minor chord next to it here because you can absolutely, and I left my editable chord sheet up here, my arrangement sheet up here, just for this reason. I want to add the D minor here to our page so that you can look at it, because I'm just making it small so it fits with the other ones, because you can do a substitution as we're playing through and we talk about substitutions for easier playing of this song. You might want to play the D minor instead of the D minor 6. Let's just slip this in here. The D minor could be played instead of the D minor 6 or the D minor 7. And you see that if you make a D minor shape, 3-finger easy beginner shape, and you add your pinky finger on the 2nd fret of the A to your D minor shape, you've got a D minor 6. If you scoot that pinky finger forward 1 to the 3rd fret of the A, you've got a D minor 7. So you can play the easier or the more tricky shapes, but they are all interrelated, which is a nice thing to notice. And if you take that D minor 7 shape and move it forward, every finger forward 1 fret towards the sound hole, you're playing a D sharp minor 7, which is also in this song. So again, more interrelations. Same thing down here when we look at this G7 and the G sharp 7. The G7 is a 3-finger chord that a lot of beginners learn. If we want to play a G sharp 7, we need to add a note on our G string. And so it's best to kind of change the way you play that G sharp 7, which we'll talk about more as we're going through the chords. But then that G sharp 7 becomes a movable chord shape that can be moved around. So you can absolutely play that in other places on the fretboard. We'll strategize more with the G sharp 7 a little later because it only comes in once in this song, and I have a workaround for those of you who just cannot figure it out or are not yet up to it. Also, there's this shape that I call the claw shape, which is a very common jazz shape, the diminished 7. Played 2-3-2-3 in this case is a C diminished 7. But other chords will use the same shape, and that also is a movable chord shape. And then finally down here at the very bottom, a kind of beginner 2 chord, same shape as the G7. The F sharp minor is not hard to play, but in a different spot on your fretboard as the G7. So really big mix of bar chords and non-bar chords, super easy chords and tricky jazz chords and everything in between. But we're going to work through the song now, and hopefully this will help unlock a little bit of these chord relationships and how we can make a song like this even more approachable. So I do want to walk through the chords as written on the page, and then we'll talk about some substitutions. So if you want to jump ahead to substitutions, you can. But I'm going to take this off the screen, stop sharing it, so you might want it on your end, and this way you can see my hands a little bit bigger. In fact, I'll tilt my camera down a little bit so that we can talk about how these chords do move. I'm sorry, I'm just closing a window here so I can see what's going on my screen. Here we go. All right. So let's talk about how these chords move. The intro is the same chords as the first 4 chords of the first line, so we can skip that for now and just go to the verse. The verse chords, you start with a nice easy 2-finger A. Yes, if you know other shapes of A, you can easily substitute any other shape you know for most of these chords, but it's nice enough just to start with that as our home base for the key of A. You're going to come back to that A a lot. The A moves into a B minor 7, and I do play these bar chords using a full bar. You could stack your fingers if you prefer. I find it easiest to do with the bar, and I have a whole video that's free on bar chord tips and tricks. If you need that, I'll link it at the bottom of the timestamps. So moving from the A, I'm going to go to a barred B minor 7. I'm going to slip my index finger forward, sort of slide it, and then put my middle finger on top if I want a little more pressure, but you don't have to do that. My thumb is on the back of the neck of the ukulele, giving me a little counter pressure, but I'm not squeezing like my life depends on it. I want to keep my hand a little loose so that I don't cramp up here, especially with the number of bar chords this song requires in this key. So I'll go from my A to my B minor 7. I'm just going to do single strums for now, and we don't have to be in rhythm. We're just doing the movements. And then I'm going to slide that up to the 4th fret for the C sharp minor 7. So that's where I'm going next, and then I'm coming right back. So you can think of that as an A, 2nd fret, 4th fret, 2nd fret. If you do the next chord on the line, which is the E7, which as I said is a transitional chord, you will need to release that bar. So I'll bring my index finger back here and make my E7 shape. Then my index finger needs to move to go back to A. So back to home base. Here though, I'm going to go to an E minor 7, which a lot of people know is your second fret on your C and A string. So I'm going to kind of swivel my A shape so that my index comes to second fret of the C. And then that index can just back up one fret to the A7. So this line has a lot of simpler chords to start it out. A, E minor 7, slide that back to A7, and then I need to move my 3 fingers, index, middle, ring, forward to stack my D. Here, and again, we'll talk about simplifying this later, but in the more advanced version of this song, I go to a C sharp 7, which is another bar chord. So I can swivel, bar my first fret, and put a finger next to it for the C sharp 7. 1, 1, 1, 2. Again, same shape as D7, but it's down here on the first and second chord. So that's your second line. A, E minor 7, A7, and D, C sharp 7. Then from there, I need to release my bar again. I'm going to go to an F sharp minor. Remember, that's that G7 shape on your GCE. F sharp minor. Now here, interestingly, D minor 6, we don't have to move a ton to get to our D minor 6, but we have to move a few fingers. My index finger needs to go to my E string, so that's just a little short hop. My middle finger is already in place for D minor 6, but my ring finger needs to hop here to the C string, and then my pinky tucks in on the second fret A string behind those 2 fingers. So you can see too how that's your D minor shape with your pinky on the second fret. So that's your D minor 6, and from there I'm going to an A. So I can leave my middle finger where it is, lift everything else, and move that index back to the C string. So you can practice that a few times. F sharp minor, D minor 6, A. And then F sharp minor, D minor 6, A. Here I'm going to go to my D minor 7 shape, but scooch it up so it becomes a D sharp minor 7. So it might help you to make the shape and then move it, or you might make it starting on the first finger, your index finger on the second fret of the E string. But you will want to go to that D sharp minor 7. And then we're back to our bars. So we're going to go, or for a moment, we're going to go to the C, oh no, sorry, I read it wrong. It's not C sharp minor 7, this is C sharp major 7. So that's one of the hard things about this chord sheet, is a lot of chords have fairly similar names. So you have to differentiate the major from the minor in your head, which takes muscle memory and practice so that your brain translates them correctly. As you see, mine just did the wrong one. So I am going to a bar chord, but not the one my brain was telling me to go to. Here, you're going to go from your D sharp major 7 to a first finger bar, and then bring your pinky or your ring finger to the 3rd fret. That's your C sharp major 7. Back to D minor 7, which my pinky's already in the right place for, so pinky can stay. Other 3 fingers become the D minor shape. And then C major 7, or ending on a dead easy 1-finger chord. Now again, if you're a beginner and you're watching this, hang in there because I've got some substitutions to give you in a bit. So this second verse, going into the second verse, you do kind of a little bit of a transition. The everybody has transitional chords, like the first line of the song did. We've got that B minor 7, E7 again. And then we go back into the same pattern. A, B minor 7, C sharp minor 7, etc. And it stays the same. I'm just double checking until we get to the last line. Yep, otherwise the chords all stay the same until we get to the last line. And then we go from, we'll find it hard. Here we're back on our minor bar, which is up here on the 4th fret. Find it, this one's a tricky one, F sharp 7. That goes here. F sharp 7 is 3, 4, 2, 4. I'm trying to say that slowly, so I made sure I said it correctly. F sharp 7. That's on hard. Back to our barred B minor 7, E7. We do that a lot in this song. Back to our A. So if you're starting to see some patterns, you're going to have to do B minor 7, E7, A a lot. And you're going to do a lot of back and forth between B minor 7 and C sharp minor 7. So those are some movements you can practice if that's helpful for you. When we look then at the third verse, and so I'm offering, again, it starts out very similarly as the first verse. The first couple of lines are exactly the same. The third line is exactly the same. And then we get into our outro. So instead of one last line to the verse, we actually repeat the final line, which is the Merry Christmas part, a couple of times with similar chords. And actually it's going to be a lot, again, of that barred back and forth between 2 and 4. So let's go to Although It's Been Said, when we're starting out the same way we did in the other two verses, with an F sharp minor. Then remember your little hop to make your D minor 6, then an A, and here's a tricky chord, which I do have a workaround for, so don't panic. But if you're going to play the whole chord, you need to make a G7 shape on your second and third frets and keep your index finger down here to make that the sharp. So you're kind of taking your whole G7 shape. If you were playing it with your middle finger on the first fret of your E string, ring finger on the second fret of your C string, pinky finger on the second fret of your A string, that's an awkward way to play G7, but we're going to scooch it forward and we need the index free to go to G first fret. Again, work around in a moment, but that is the G sharp 7 chord. Then from there, one more unusual chord, but very related to this chord, C diminished 7. All we have to do is scoot this index finger forward to the second fret of the G string. So just one note difference. G sharp 7, C diminished 7. That's all that's happening there. I have a workaround for that too if you don't like that shape, which I call the claw shape. And then we're going back to our bar. And here we get a lovely little back and forth on the Merry Christmas part. Christmas, second fret, fourth fret, second fret, fourth fret, second fret, fourth fret, second fret. Then we do fourth fret twice for the final Merry Christmas where it's held out, second fret, and then our familiar back to E7, back to A. So that B minor 7, E7, A that happens so many times in the verses also comes back in at the very end of the song. Now instead of that A, you could do the outro that I'll teach in a little bit, but that is the basic chord movement through the more advanced version of this song. So what I'd like to do is now walk you through a few substitutions, and let's look at them with the page, and then we'll do kind of a single strum through. So some of the substitutions you can make I've already mentioned, and then again they're also noted up here for you on these 3 lines up in the text box in case you want reminders. For any of this family of chords with the D minor 6 and D minor 7, not the D sharp minor because sharp adds in another wrinkle here, but for D minor 6, D minor 7, you can use a D minor instead. So if you'd rather play a 3-finger chord there, anywhere it says D minor 6 or D minor 7, you can just play the D minor. So that is one easy substitution to make that is more beginner friendly. Another substitution you can make is here on these italicized C sharp 7s. When I listened to my 2 original covers of this song, I heard in the first version where I'd only been playing for 6 months, I heard myself not play C sharp 7 at all. I skipped it and I just played D again. So sometimes if you need to skip a chord, sometimes you can stay on the previous chord and keep going with it. And especially if you're a confident singer, if you're singing along, which I was more confident as a singer than a player at that point, you can probably get away with it. Now, if you're playing in a group, it may or may not sound harmonious with everyone else. But if you're playing in one of my Zoom jams, it would certainly work because no one else can hear you. What's working for you to make the song fun to play is important, even if it's not exactly true to the song. So we're kind of splitting the difference here between what would be right and what would be doable. And it's okay to make some of these changes, especially if it sounds good enough to you, close enough to you. So that is one substitution I made as a 6 months along player. I just played, instead of the italicized C sharp 7 that comes in on these 3 verses, I played another 2 beats of D, and more on the strumming and the timing in a minute. But that would completely eliminate the C sharp 7 from the song. So you can already eliminate D minor 6, D minor 7, and C sharp 7 from this song if you need to. Another thing you can do is some creative vocalization. So you can sing things a cappella, meaning without music underneath them, and get rid of a tricky chord. One example of that where you could do it is this C diminished 7 I mentioned, which is the chord played 2, 3, 2, 3. If you're coming off of this G sharp 7 and it's hard enough for you to play that, which we'll do the workaround in a second, but you're coming in, you're singing this, although it's been said many times, many ways, and you can hold that as long as you want. You can just sing without doing another chord yet. Merry, and then drop back in on Christmas with your bar chord, Christmas. So you can skip some chords. That's not the only place you could do that, but it is for me, I consider that a really good example where you could skip a chord completely and just sing and then come back in on the next chord you can do. When I'm looking at some of these chord charts, say on a site like Dr. Ook, which this arrangement was partially based on, my first experiences with the Dr. Ook site, which has great chord sheets but a lot of jazzy chords. I sometimes would skip, a lot of chords in a song, just the ones I didn't know. I would just skip them and just keep singing. If you can stay in time with the other chords, that's also a good way to hang in there in a jam. Let the other people who can play those chords play them, and you just come in at the moments you're supposed to come in on the chords you can play. If you're a solo player, that's a little trickier to do. If you have people playing with you, it can be a little simpler, unless they're going way too fast, but this song also doesn't need to go too fast. And if you are playing alone, another thing you can do in terms of creative vocalization is slow down wherever you need to. I know this may not be what everybody wants to do, but if your goal is just to play this song and to have fun with it, or to play it with your family and have everybody sing around the Christmas tree, you can slow it down in some places, like that dramatic many ways. You could do that in other places too. Tiny tots with their eyes all aglow, and let that hang until you get back to your bar. We'll find it, and then continue. As another example of not playing chords, let's look at that. We'll find it hard to sleep tonight, because you could play every other chord on this line and be fine. So we're coming off of tiny tots with their eyes all aglow, and that's kind of tricky to get to that D sharp minor 7. Well, now if we can get to that 4th fret bar, find it, skip the F7, F sharp 7. Find it hard to sleep, just skip the E7 too, and go back to your A. Night. You often need, like whenever we go back to an A, we want to include that A, but luckily for us, it's also a really easy chord. So if you need to go, just find it and sleep and skip the chords on hard and 2. You could get away with that in this song too. So there may be other places like that where you're like, I can't play every single chord here. I'm just going to play every other chord. That could work for you. Yuletide carols. See there, it kind of clashes a little bit. Chestnuts roasting on an open fire, Jack Frost nipping at your nose. It's not ideal, but you could get away with Jack Frost nipping. Maybe I switch to the E minor 7, then skip the A7 if I don't have time to get there, and then go to my D at your nose, and then just skip the C sharp 7. So that was up here on this line. So play around with that. Skip the ones you need to skip in order to stay on track rhythmically with what you want to do. And eventually, like I did a year later, I worked in more of the chords. So you can revisit this song the next time the holiday season rolls around and see how many more of those chords you can fit in. This arrangement I've made doesn't even have every chord that the Dr. Ook version has. So you could then, if you graduate from this, you can move over to the Dr. Ook one and put even more chords into this song. So there's lots of ways that you can start out incrementally and get there over time. Don't feel like you have to play them all at once. So another thing that you can do in order to simplify this for yourself is to, when you have any 2 chords that are bolded next to each other, I use those to note a rhythmic difference for those chords. Most of the chords that have no bolding on them, you're going to play for 2 beats, and we'll get to the strumming in a minute, some strumming options for you. But there are a couple times when in jazz chords, we might change chords even faster and use one of these transitional chords to get to the next chord, like at the end of the first line. Instead of playing B minor 7 for 2 beats and E7 for 2 beats, we're actually playing each of those for 1 beat. So that would sound like this. Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. And so if you can't play that fast, or you don't want to, or you don't want to do those two chords right in a row because the shapes are a tricky transition, you can actually just play the first one for 2 beats. So in this case, it would be the B minor 7. You play that for 2 beats and skip the E7. Or on the next line, Jack Frost nipping at your nose, you just play the E minor 7 for nipping, skip the at A7, and then go back in on your nose. So anywhere you see a pair of bolded chords, and that goes back to what I was saying about sometimes you can play every other chord, just play the first one and you will be fine. You want to still do it for the right amount of time, so instead of playing 2 chords for 1 beat each, you're playing 1 chord for 2 beats. Hopefully that math makes sense. But that is something that you can also do to simplify this one, which is really nice. So all of these things put together eliminate some of the tricky chords on this page, but not every single one. I couldn't find a good substitute for that F sharp 7. You could skip it, but I can't find a good way for you to play it that's even easier. The G sharp 7, though, down here that only comes in once on many ways, I did find a slightly easier way to play it. And that is that you can make your G7 shape on your CEA strings and not play your G string. So because I chose that as a single strum hang in the air moment, it's easier than if you're strumming along in a fast pattern to leave out a string. That people can do that, but I'm not very good at it, and I don't know about you. If you want to play the G sharp 7, but you cannot get your fingers in the shape fast enough to play the traditional one, then put your fingers in the G7 shape, move it forward to your 2nd and 3rd fret, and just play CEA string on your strum. Don't strum the G string. And that is just a way to just play it. You're going to miss a note, but that's okay. It sounds the difference between this and this. So that's with all 4 of the notes or 3 notes. It sounds a little more open, maybe a little empty to you, but it will work on this song. So that is another workaround that you can do that I really like for this song for people who want to play it who are more beginner. So how does the rhythm work? We just started talking about that, so let me transition into it a little bit more. This song, all the non-bolded chords, as I said, get 2 beats, and all the bolded chords get 1 beat. If you're making the substitutions, though, you may need to remember, like, if I'm only playing 1 of these bolded chords, it needs to go for 2. So I would love to single strum through the second half of the song so that we can just look at how that works in time. And we'll do it a little slower than the song. I mean, again, the song is not fast, but we'll do it a little slower even than I would play this song. And you can always slow me down more on YouTube using that gear icon. You can change the speed and make it slower or faster. And that will let us kind of start to get the rhythm of this, just with single strums though. And this is actually a song that sounds really nice on single strums. You could play the whole song on single strums and it would be lovely. So this is not necessarily just a workaround. You can actually use this for when you're playing it. But let's start with the bridge actually. Well, yeah, let's start with the bridge because we're going to play through the whole song at the end anyway. So we'll get the transition from verse to bridge in a few minutes. And actually it's pretty easy because I just gave you some extra measures of A to give you time to set up going into the bridge. So let's start with the bridge and go through the end of the song, but skip the outro for now. So we're just going to do single strums. Let's make nice and slow. 1, 2, 3. Oh. No, there's a little bit of a pickup there. So I'm going to count us in because you remember these are 2 beats, not 4 beats. I'm going to count us in 1, 2, which is actually this A just before. And then I'm going to say 3, which is this A. And then we'll start singing if you're singing along. But you can also just let me do the singing and just strum. So let's try 1, 2. We should play the 3. That'll be helpful. Let's count. Let's go from this A. Let's go from this A through the end of the song. So 1, 2, 1, 2, A, 2, A. Only let's take it even slower than that. I can already feel that I'm going too fast for some people. So let's slow it down even more, Jenny. 1, 2, 1, 2. Here we go. A, 2. They know that Santa's on his way. 2 beats each. He's loaded. didn't do the bridge yet. This is live, folks. Okay. Look, in my timestamps, I will make this more clear. We didn't talk about how the chords move in the bridge, Jenny, and you're already trying to single strum through the bridge. That's why I'm seeing chords that we haven't talked about yet. Let's talk about the bridge for a moment. If I had a fancy video editor, I would have them cut that last 4 minutes out. But I'm just going to put in timestamps so you can skip it. Okay, so talking about how the chords move through the bridge. We're going to go from the A, and let me take the chords off the screen again like we did before so you can see my fingers up close. We're going to go from the A, which is our home base for the chords and for the whole song, for the verses I mean, and for the whole song, and including the bridge. So again, we're starting out with an A, and then we're going to an E minor 7. That's like the second line of the verse. So we're going A, E minor 7, and then to an A7, which again, just like the second line of the verses, those first 3 chords, A, E minor 7, A7, and then we're going to a D major 7, which we haven't played yet in this song, which I was not able to find a good substitute for. But you can put your pinky out here while you're still on your A minor or your A7. You can put your pinky out here onto the 4th fret, and that can help you find your D major 7. So pinky on the 4th fret, then put your bar in place on the 2nd fret. You could also play that with your ring finger instead of your pinky if you like, but that's the D major 7. So I'm going from A7 to D major 7, and then to D6, which is contained in the D major 7 chords. All I do is lift that pinky or ring finger, and then I'm on a D6, which again is same as B minor 7. So we've played that shape before in the song, I just went by a different name. Then we're going to another chord we've already played, D minor 7. So I'm going to take my bar and swing it back here and have my index finger go to the 1st fret of the E string, bring my D minor 7 or D minor if you're making this substitution into G7. This is actually a really nice switch. Keep your index finger planted and just move your middle and ring finger into the place for the G7. So that's actually a really nice switch. D minor 7 to G7. That happens in a lot of jazz songs actually. Great switch, and then you already have a finger in place for the C major 7. You can just swivel and open up so that all you have is your ring finger on the 2nd fret of your A string, and then all open strings, C6. So that's kind of a nice switch. D minor 7, G7, C major 7, open. Has a nice sound too. I love how those chords move. And then we go to an F sharp minor again. That's that G7 shape down closer to your face. And then we're going to go into our B7, which remember I said you could play 2 different ways. So I'm either going to bring my ring finger over here and play my bar with my ring finger on the 3rd fret of the C, or if I want to go to my, I wouldn't necessarily use my other shape personally, but if you like that other shape that's more of a stair step diagonal shape, you could bring your index finger here to 2nd fret of the E string and then walk your other 2 fingers into place. I like the bar B7 on this song, but you could play it either way. And then the nice thing if you're playing a barred B7 is that the B minor 7 is contained in it. So again, another move where you just lift your extra finger, you're playing the B minor 7, and then you're going into the E7, which we do so many times in this song. B minor 7 to E7. So that's nice. Okay, so now let's walk through the whole last of the song using single strums, and I'll put the chords back on the screen, and we'll just do it slowly, slowly, slowly from the bridge through the end. But we're going to start at this A right before the bridge because remember these are 2-beat chords, and we want a whole 4-beat measure in order to count us in. And if that doesn't make sense to you, that's okay. Just come in on a 1 instead of a 3 here. So we're going to do 1, 2, 1, 2. So A, 2, and A. They know that Santa's on his way. He's loaded lots of toys and goodies on his sleigh. Now just the bar, and every mother's child is gonna spy, all open strings here, to see if reindeer really know how to fly that's the whole bar, and E7. And so I'm offering, 4th fret, this simple phrase, 2nd fret, to kids from 1 to 92. You play the D again, or although it's been said many times, many ways. You can let that hang. And then remember, bring your index finger forward for the claw shape, but the rest of the shape doesn't change. Merry, 4th fret, Christmas, 2nd fret. We're just going back and forth. And then again. Merry Christmas. Again, back and forth. Last line. Merry Christmas, E7, to you. And we could do the outro there, but we're just going to stop there. So that is single strumming through, and the first 2 verses would work the same as that 3rd verse, except for at the very end, that last line, which we'll do in a little bit. We'll do the whole song, so you can do the first 2 verses as well. Now, something I noticed was that going from my A to my tricky G sharp 7 is actually not as bad as it could be, because when I go from A to the G sharp 7, I need to just move my index finger to the G string on the fret it's already on. So I anchor that, and then I build my G7 shape. So that can be a way you think about it in your head. You can think about, okay, this is that G7 shape with my index finger added. I would plant that index finger first and then just build this. It's still going to be a little awkward because that's not how we play G7. We play it with these 3 fingers, not these 3 fingers. But it is something that you can think at the same time that you're doing it to help your brain get there faster. All right, so how am I strumming this? When I'm strumming this song, I am doing something friendly to a 2-beat song. I am looking at either a single strum like we just did, which, as I said, I think would be nice the whole way through the song. I'm looking at a down, down on those notes I was just tapping, or the beats I was just tapping out. 1, 2, then you switch. And the only difference is when you come to the bolded ones, and then you would get a 1, 2. Or you could do a down, down, up. So instead of down, down, in the same amount of time, you could do 1, 2, and 1, 2, and. You still wouldn't be able to do a down, down, up when you get to the bolded chords, but there you can do a single strum, and that takes care of those. Now you could also do a pump strum on this song, which not everybody knows how to do. I put a link in the description box to my video on right and left-handed muting, which has some info on pump strumming, and we're going to have a special patron lesson on pump strumming this month for my $20 and up patrons. Pump strumming involves sometimes, well, most of the time it involves muting with your fretting hand the strings just after you've played the chord. So you hear the sound of the chord and then it stops. And there's different strategies around it. I'm not going to go into a whole long pump strumming tutorial on this. If you want me to make a standalone pump strumming video for public use, let me know. But in general, you can do your pump strumming techniques on this song. It's even easier on the chords where your fingers are already covering all the strings, because you don't have to put any other fingers out to stop the sound. You just kind of do pulse and release, pulse and then release. You can get some of the same feel, though, just by pulsing the strings that you're holding down. You'll get the ring through of the other strings. It won't be a true pump strum. But in a song like this, you could do that, because when you get to those bar chords, you're going to be getting a true pump. So if you need to not put your pinky finger or your ring finger out on the A chord, for example, and you just pulse your hand a little bit, that can be a workaround for some more beginner folks. Also, you don't have to do the pump strum at all. You can just do the 2 down strums or the down, down, up. And that is also a nice way to play this song. So there's lots of different ways you can play around with the 2 beats. And in fact, I probably wouldn't do just one thing throughout the entire song. I would mix and match. And I do have a video on strumming intuitively as well as part of my one take tutorial series that talks about breaking away from picking patterns and strumming patterns a little bit and just doing it like you're feeling it. And I think this is a nice song for that too. You can be very expressive. Sometimes you can give yourself more time, sometimes less time. You might be singing it in a slightly different way than me and you want to put the chords somewhere slightly different, like especially in that outro, depending on how long you're going to hold out those words, might be a little different from how I sing it. So you might put the chords in slightly different places. I truly do want you to be able to make this your own. So check out that video on intuitive strumming if you haven't already. But this would be a great song to practice that sort of thing on. Don't give yourself a strumming pattern. Just be like, okay, I've got 2 beats. How am I going to play around with it? You could do down, up, down, up. You know, there's lots of different ways that you can play with those 2 beats. And, you know, see how it feels in your body. So the strumming pretty simple, and I think that's helpful when you're working with more complicated chords. Again, whether you're single strumming the whole thing or whether you're doing a simple 2 down strums or sometimes one, sometimes the other, you don't need to get super fancy and complicated with the strum in order to play a song like this, because the chords are doing a lot of work. They're beautiful, and especially if you're playing the more complicated chords, they have really lovely voicings. The vocal melody is gorgeous. If you're singing along, that's doing part of the work. Not that you need to be singing, but like you've got a lot going on in this song. You don't need to add a super fancy strum to it. If you are strumming this really fancy though, of course, feel free. And then let's talk briefly about that outro. So you could just end the song the way I just did with a single A strum. And you could play the A that is written here, which is the 2-finger A. If you know your barred A, you could go up and play a different shape on the fretboard. One classic barred A that a lot of people learn is, let's see here, how would I say that? 6, 4, 5, 4. If you know your F sharp, it's the F sharp shape at the 4th fret. That's a high A, so you could play that. And in fact, you could play the picking riff, the chord melody riff that we're about to learn using that barred shape as well, but I wrote it out more simply than that. Or instead of playing a single A at the end of the song, you can play this chord melody riff, which brings in the melody of Jingle Bells. So to bring in the melody of Jingle Bells, oh, why did it do that? It gave my, it's showing me it's showing me some kind of weird outline view. I've never done that for me before when I've been watching it, sorry, when I've been showing this. Huh, how do I make that stop? Sorry folks, I've never seen it do this before, where it's suddenly shown me a strange view. Oh, there we go. Okay, I had somehow clicked enter outline. I don't know how that worked or how that happened. Again, that's never happened before. We just get all kinds of surprises in these live stream lessons. All right, so now we're looking at this chord melody here at the bottom, and you play this instead of the final A. So you either play the final A or you play this chord melody at the end. You don't do both. So down here at the very bottom, we've got the chord melody outro written out for you in tab, and I do have some lessons on tab if you need one, but basically tab is showing you the string. For example, this is the G string, this is the C string, this is the E string, and then what fret you are fingering on your fretboard on each of those strings to play these. And because this is specifically for chord melody, we are strumming through the full chords that cover all 4 strings, and we are picking the single notes. Now there's lots of different ways that tab could be written out. There's lots of ways you could do this particular melody, but I tried to write out one that was a combination of chords and picking and wasn't too hard. So it's built around the 2-finger A, but it adds a note on top on the A string to that A chord so that we can play the Jingle Bells melody. So basically you take your 2-finger A, you add your 4th fret pinky. So now that's going to be our starting note for the Jingle Bells melody, and it's going to go like this. So you do strum, pick, pick, and I'm just plucking with my thumb, but you could do other fingers as well. Strum, pluck, pluck, and then the same thing, strum, pluck, pluck. You can take as much time with that as you want. You can do it nice and slow. And then I'm going to take my pinky finger 4, move it up to 7 on the same string, open. I will take my middle finger to play that 2nd fret of the A, so that then I can take, oh no, my ring finger would even be better. So pinky on 7, ring finger on 2nd fret. So then I can put my A shape back down, again with the pinky on top on 4. Or you could take it up to your barred A if you wanted to. So again, the whole thing together, and we'll do it slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait. Wait. 4, 7. Open. 2. Strum. That is the outro. And again, that can go slower than the rest of the song because it is kind of a little, just like almost like a postscript or an asterisk at the end of the song. This kind of sneaks in a little jingle bells, which I think is sweet. So that is a fun way to end the song. All right, let's do a couple playthroughs before I have to go switch over to jam mode and do my play along that I'm doing in 24 minutes. I want to do 2 playthroughs of this, and I'm going to do one more simply and one a little bit more intermediate. And you can play along with both and make your own choices. You do not have to play either one the same way I'm doing it, but let me tell you what I'm going to do. The first time I'll keep the chords up on the screen. The second time I will take them off so you can see my fingers more closely. The first time I'm going to try to make as many of the substitutions as I can. I haven't marked this whole page up with all the substitutions because I tried to make a second page of this and I was just getting overcomplicated, and I thought better for you to decide like what you want to include and what you don't, and mix and match among the skills as you like. But I'm going to try to remember to make as many of these substitutions as I can, like not playing this Merry Christmas note here. We'll just see how many I remember to do. But we're going to take it nice and slow. I'm going to do just the double strums, no pumping, nothing like that. Maybe sometimes I'll do a down, down, up, but I'm not going to overcomplicate it and do anything too wild. And I'm going to start with single strums. I'm going to play single strums for the first few lines until I feel comfortable with the rhythm. And again, one of the substitutions I'm going to make is also leaving off the 2nd chord of these bolded pairs. So I'm going to leave that off, but you can play it if you want. So let's just see if I can get through this, making as many of these substitutions as I can. 1, 2, 1, 2. A, wait, B minor 7, 4th fret, 2nd fret, 2, A. Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. I'm just going to play the B minor 7. Wait. Jack Frost nipping at your nose. You play the D again. Now F sharp minor. Yuletide carols being sung by a choir. Oh yeah, D minor. Oh no, sorry, this is D sharp. Choir. So I have to do that shape there. And folks dressed up. That's a D minor though for substituting Eskimos. Everybody knows a turkey and some mistletoe. B minor 7, skip the E7. Help to make the season bright. I'm skipping that A7 too. To F sharp minor. Tiny tots, D minor, with their eyes all aglow. Sorry, that's this one. Glow will find it hard. We can skip that one to sleep. Skip tonight. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. They know that Santa's on his way. Back and forth. He's loaded lots of toys and goodies on his sleigh. Open up to the bar. And every D minor mother's child is gonna spy open strings to see if reindeer really know, now it's the bar, how to fly. And so I'm offering this simple phrase, B minor 7, to kids from 1 to 19. 1992. Play the D again. Although, D minor, it's been said many times, many ways. Don't play your G string. Merry Christmas. Second fret, just back and forth. Fourth fret. Merry. Oops, sorry. One more of those. Merry Christmas. One more back and forth. Merry Christmas. A7 here. To you. So the simple ending would be just the end on the A there, not the outro. One thing I just did wrong as I was doing the simplifications was Merry Christmas. I went to my B minor 7 too soon. It still didn't sound terrible, so that's actually a mistake that you could get away with. But that was the one thing I noticed as I was going through that. So here's what was tricky for me in this song still is remembering which one is my C sharp major 7 and which one is my C sharp minor 7. The minor 7 is the bar chord on the 4th fret. The major 7 uses a bar on 1. And if you can remember your D major 7 is just up from that 1 fret each finger, that could be helpful. So that's probably how I will try to think of it in my head when we play through it a second time, is the C sharp major 7, we're going to 1, the C sharp minor 7, we're going to 4. Tricky though, and all this stuff just takes practice. It's just muscle memory, it's just getting it. So that was the simplified version. Let me take the chords off the screen and do a more intermediate version with all the jazzy chords and playing them all rather than dropping some out like we were doing last time, and we will also do the chord melody outro as well. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I needed to refresh my memory on. I think otherwise we're pretty good. So let's try a little faster, but again, not a fast song, doesn't need to go super fast. So I'm just going to do it a little bit jauntier with my pump strum too, like that. Again, slow me down on the gear icon if you want to get a slower playthrough with this style and these chords. I'm going to go 1, 2, 1, 2. I already messed up. Let's try that again, Jenny. 1, 2, 1, 2. Chestnuts roasting on an open fire, Jack Frost nipping at your nose, Yuletide carols being sung by a choir, and folks dressed up like Eskimos. Everybody knows a turkey and some mistletoe help to make the season bright. Tiny tots with their eyes all aglow, there it is, will find it hard to sleep tonight. There's a lot of chords, folks. Here's the next verse. They know that a bridge Santa's on his way. He's loaded lots of toys and goodies on his sleigh. And every mother's child is gonna spy to see if reindeer really know how to fly. And so I'm offering this simple phrase to kids from 1 to 92. Although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to I do prepare for these lessons, but also this song takes practice. If I played this again right now, it would already be a little better, and if I played it a third time, it would be even better. Sometimes you have to sit down and you have to practice it a couple of times. And so even though I played it before I sat down to live stream this, it's a work in progress, right? Do go and look at the difference between my two covers if you'd like to see the difference between 6 months of playing and a year and a half of playing. Not that you need to be at a certain point at 6 months or a year and a half, but just the difference between those two videos is huge. So almost everything in ukulele, the answer is practice more and we'll get better at it. And that's true for me. I'm not an expert player as much as it is for anybody else. So hopefully that was helpful. I know it's a tricky song. Hopefully these substitutions will help those of you who are more beginner players or who like simpler chord shapes. This song does have some jazzier moments, so like that F sharp 7 and a couple of other things, hard to work around. And it does have a lot of chords, which as you just saw, my brain processing those as we played it through, that takes some work too. So practice in increments, practice it slow. Do the chords before you do the rhythm, do the chords in the rhythm before you add the singing. Make sure it all fits together for you and keep it fun for yourself. Play every other chord if you need to. Play it all on single strums. Make it work for you. Thank you to John who requested this song and challenged me to arrange it based on my old covers, or I challenged myself to arrange it based on my old covers. But there are other keys you can play this in, of course. And let me know in the comments how this is working for you. If you are playing this one, if you're playing it in a different key you like better, if you have any other tips or tricks you want to give to folks, or if you have questions I didn't answer. But I think this has been long enough. It's been a long tutorial. I love this song. I'm sure I'll be playing it this season, especially now that I've written it up for myself. And I hope that some of you enjoy it too. Thanks again for being here, folks. I will see you again soon. My jam is happening in 15 minutes. I doubt anybody is watching this before that, but I will be over doing my beginner-friendly jam live on YouTube very shortly if you're watching this live. Bye, folks. See you soon.